Presented by PlayStation Days of Play.
Greetings, folks. I am Curtin Davina. Joining me here today is a cool cat, Michael Fitch, the director of product for Warren Spector's new game from OtherSide Entertainment, As Thieves. How you doing?
Good. I'm happy to be here.
Your game, I got to see it for a brief moment of time, and it's one of those things that it's a stealth co-op, but not co-op, PVPVE.
Competitive stealth.
Competitive, yeah. So like, and I think, but then it also is, by nature, an immersive sim.
Yes.
It's only natural that these two things go together.
Right.
And I feel like I can't really pull at many games in existence that have touched this genre, maybe with the exception of, say, like Deathloop, that tried to incorporate a multiplayer experience into their immersive sim. But seeing your game, it was like it was very hard for me at first. Just seeing the reveal trailer at the Game Awards last year, I was like, how does that work? How do you take this immersive sim stealth game and make that competitive?
Yeah.
So in your own words, in your own pitch, like how would you describe that thing?
I mean, so it's that dynamic is very central to the work we're doing, because I think part of the reason why there is the opportunity to make As Thieves is that no one else has been in that space before, right? And when Warren and Paul started OtherSide, their core thing was they wanted to make games that would push the industry forward, push the genre of immersive sims forward, because they love immersive sims, but overall just create things that no one's ever experienced before, create new opportunities for people to have game experiences that they just never had, right? And so for us, when we looked at stealth and how do we take stealth to the next dimension, multiplayer was the natural place to go. Stealth solo is a well understood problem, right? But stealth multiplayer opens up all kinds of possibilities where now you can't predict what the other players are going to do. They add a dynamic to it. And looking at multiplayer, the place that we ended up was PVPVE. PVE is great for stealth. You're against the environment, you're trying to figure things out, you're trying to get to your objective, you're trying to get it out. But the other thieves, when they're live and they're other players, it adds a whole different dimension to the experience because you can't predict them, and they're just as clever as you are, and they have just as many tools to manipulate the environment and the situation as you have. And so then it really becomes intense.
There's basically it's like it's a race to loot, right? It's like a race to steal things. You're thieves. So it's like you versus it's 4 players total, correct?
So right now we're doing 4 players PVPVE, although we're experimenting with some other game modes, and one of the things
all of them are against each other.
But yeah, all of them having some element of competition, right? Because competing with other thieves for mastery is, I think, the ultimate kind of core of the game, right? And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a race, right? One way to be successful might be to race to the quest objective, and it's going to be the most valuable thing in the match. An alternative way, you might actually win by going around the periphery and getting all the major loot that isn't in the major POI for that match, because if no one else is chasing that, then there's less competition, there's less resistance. Whoever gets out with the most stuff wins. So it's not how you get there, it's that you get there.
It's like I said this when I saw it the other day, and you kind of had your idea, but like I felt like one of the easiest ways for me to kind of grasp what I was looking at was like by calling it a looter stealther, because like the idea of a group of, instead of a looter shooter where it's a group of people going in to get the best loot and then take it out to survive.
Yes.
This kind of follows a similar trait, but I do think you're correct that it's not quite the right comparison. But do you understand like why I can see it that way?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the difference is that looter shooters are very driven by the RNG dynamic of like you open the chest, you get the thing, and it's like, does it have the right affixes? Does it power me up in the right categories? And we don't want to be that kind of like loot-driven RNG experience. This is not an RPG where it's like whoever has the best equipment wins, right? We want it to be a contest of skill and stealth, and that means that at a certain point, everybody has access to the same tool set, everybody has access to the same options, and it's what they do with it that makes the interesting kind of dynamic of the play.
The thing that I think like one of the cooler ways that you were solving that was immersive sims in their nature really are about absorbing a world in every single way in which you can tackle something, whether you do it with brute force or you want to do it stealth, or you have a different way in which you can go through this back way, up this wall, over there and do this, and something overly complicated. And it was really impressive to see how you narrow down that sort of play style into something that is quite fast-paced, but it still didn't lose that sense of solving a problem your own way. And you had mentioned this, that the every single time you enter, which by the way, for context, this is like 1910 Scotland, like
yeah, it's sort of inspired by the northern UK, not necessarily exactly Scotland, but sort of like Thief was like in the city, right? We want to be in that kind of indeterminate space. We want to take some liberties with history. We're doing an alternate history that includes magic, for example, right? So we want that freedom to play with the space.
But I feel like the really clever way that you're tackling that is that when you go into a space, items will obviously be in different areas, but the solutions to get those items change. So it's not like you can go into an environment and obviously the player who knows the map best is going to win, but it's your ability to enter the map and where you think you know an item is not there. In fact, the thing it's behind is completely different and randomized from the last time. So it completely trips the players up every single time. And you had a really interesting quote you said to me yesterday where if the player is not thinking, then we didn't do our job.
That's right. Absolutely. And we learned that one the hard way, right? We started off with very simple kind of quest structures where, hey, the same piece of loot spawns in the same location every time. And what happens is the players who know the map, who know the match, just beeline right to it. And if they're not having to think about what they're doing, they're not playing an immersive sim, right? They're just playing a straight action game. It becomes about speed running the level, right? And so what we want to focus on is creativity, expression, improvisation, right? What happens a lot in our matches is everyone goes in and they have a plan. They're like, oh, okay, well, I know I need to go to this manner and I'm going to go about it this way. And they go about executing that plan and everything's fine until another thief shows up. And as soon as another thief shows up, it's off, right? It's like now it's improv, now it's what can you do, now it's how can you manipulate the environment, how can you use the tool set more effectively than your opponents can to get the situation into your favor. And that's where the real juice is. That gets really exciting.
And that's not even to include the guards, like the actual...
I mean, that doesn't even include the guards, right? The civilians, all the other hazards that are in the environment, right?
Because like I saw a clip where you had gone into, the player had gone into like the apartment of somebody. So like the civilian couldn't necessarily attack you.
Right.
But if they noticed you, they could at least alert.
They're going to alert the guards, right?
And it sounds like, I mean, like, it sounds like that in of itself could be an interesting strategy against other players, too. When if you see a thief, right? Like, what can you? Is that the sort of thinking where it's like, well, if I see another player who's stealing something, there's an opportunity for me to use the environment and use the guards.
Oh, absolutely.
Something.
Absolutely. So we have tools that let you attach a sound emitter to a player. Now they're going to draw the attention of all guards near them, right? We have the ability to attach something that puts fireworks on a player so that anyone who sees them is going to like immediately aggro on them. Manipulating other players through the environment is very much part of the game. One of the things that happens in a manner, if you set off the alarm and the guards have been activated, they lock the doors, they lock the windows, they go to defensive positions. So one way to really slow down your opponents is on the way out the door, flip the alarm and get out, right? And now they've got to deal with all of that stress and all of that resistance, but you're already out the door, right? So in classic sort of immersive sim fashion, we're building things as much as possible around systems of interaction rather than scripting, rather than one-offs, and that allows players to learn those systems and use them against each other, right? And that's where we found a lot of the fun is when players get deep into the systems and now little bits of information asymmetry can cause real differences in the outcome.
Do you feel that immersive sims have actually, you know, they were for so long a rather like niche or maybe like cult status sort of genre. The people who played those games were obsessed with them, and they were more often on like PCs more than they were consoles. So it already in of itself was it was a niche, a different demographic. I mean, have you? First off, do you feel as though they have been more? I don't know.
I feel like the whole industry has been learning from immersive sims for the last 25 years. I think, you know, you've seen stealth go from being something that almost nobody touched to something that's a part of every third-person action game on console. Like Shadows of Mordor, or like you could go through Fallout. I mean, all of them, right? It's like there isn't a third-person action game on console anymore that doesn't have stealth in it, right? Now that doesn't mean they're immersive sims. Just because you have stealth doesn't mean you're an immersive sim. But the kind of systemic world building that we do, where the player really has the power to manipulate the environment and the world and change things meaningfully, we've seen more and more people try and take that on because that player-powered agency is so compelling. And I think we're going to continue to see people try and adapt these modes as performance gets better and better with new generations of consoles and new engines. It becomes easier and easier to render the world in that kind of systemic way, and then that provides the freedom for players to explore what to do with it.
Do you think there's any challenge in trying to explain to a broader audience, like, for a multiplayer game that has immersive sim elements? Like, what is the challenge like of trying to kind of, even though that genre is more well known now, I still don't think the common player, if I were to say, like, do you play immersive? I feel like even today, like, I'll go in comments and be like, I called the Indiana Jones of the Great Circle, like, immersive sim light. Like, there's so many immersive sim like qualities in that game, and so many people are like, what are you talking about? All games are immersive sims. So I was like, okay, well, do you think, I mean, what, do you think that's a challenge you kind of have to face, or, something you're thinking about when you're kind of developing something that's going to go in the multiplayer space, especially as a director of product and you're trying to find that market?
I mean, I think there's always a challenge in trying to explain to players what the game is before they have a chance to get their hands on it. But the core fantasy of thief versus thief is so easy to understand that I don't feel like we have a lot of challenges there. The immersive sim thing, like, I don't feel we have to explain that to the players. If they get into the world and they experience it, it is compelling, right? And so in some ways, like, immersive sim has become a little bit of an albatross, right? You call something an immersive sim, and now you got, like, all this work to do to explain things. It's like, let's just not even call it that, right? Let's call it a third-person action game, right, with stealth first, and that's going to be the thing that's going to drive players to the experience. Then they'll discover the immersive kind of systemic dynamics of it, and that's secondary, but it enriches the whole experience, right?
Yeah, I definitely, like, as someone who, I didn't actually grow up on that genre. It came, from curiosity later on, and mostly, like, experiencing games like Dishonored that allowed me to kind of then go back down a rabbit hole and find different stuff. But now I feel like I have such an understanding of what that is, and even an expectation of what that is. But when I saw this game in action, I was like, as I said earlier, I was like, I don't play immersive sims, so, like, be fast and to do these things. But when you see other people, like, it was like there was a part when when you were showing me the demo where the thief, you could see another thief run by you, but, like, that thief, the other player chose not to engage with the other player because you both clearly had a thing you were doing, the place you were going. And that is a different dynamic in multiplayer games I'm used to, where it's like, if you see the other player, what do you usually do? You attack them, you do something. In this case, that wasn't it.
So that was early in a match. Nobody had any loot, so there's very little to gain from getting into combat with each other, right? And that's a classic moment where it's like, okay, risk reward. You could have gotten into combat with the other player, but both of you are risking getting out of the match with no loot, right? So early in the match, everyone's scouting, everyone's investigating. It's in your sort of best interest to go for small loot or peripheral loot, but get something stashed away before you get into the combat piece of the game, where it's like, otherwise, you run the risk that you just walk out with nothing, right? So, I think part of the dynamic there is that players have a different set of choices that they have to make in the middle of an immersive sim, right? And it's going to be really interesting, I think, as we get more playtesters in to see how those dynamics evolve. Because, we've been playing a lot internally with the dev team, but we're at a place now where, like, we need to take this out to playtesters and see what are real players going to do with this.
Which is an excellent segue, because the game is currently in pre-alpha?
Pre-alpha, yes.
Which means that alpha would be the point which you would...
We're going to start opening up some more playtesting,
And when can you expect that to be a thing, eh?
Well, we're not giving a date out on that.
Sure.
But you can go to our website, you can sign up there, and we'll reach out as soon as we're ready to start letting people in.
As we come to a close on this, it was again, I know I saw at the TJs, I was like, this is conceptually interesting. I have no idea. I have no idea how to imagine what that would be like. And the moment I saw the game, then, like, the round you showed me was only 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Which I know you said was a quicker round.
Yeah, it's a faster round. We really want to aim for more like 15 to 20 for release.
But the moment I saw it in action and saw you, like, pick, each thief has their own skills, and, like, seeing how they interact, like, using different tools, like zipping to different parts, using, what was it, like the pickpocketing fairy?
Yeah.
So, like, take an item from someone from a distance.
The pickpocket fairy is one of my favorite tools, yeah.
And then this is the last thing. What is this whole, it showed, like, so-and-so stole a cheese wheel. Is that just a cheese wheel?
The team has a fascination with cheese. I can't fully explain it. It's one of those things that just happens during game development. For some reason, stealing the cheese has become the ultimate, like, emblem of being a master thief. It's like, it's good if you can get the quest loot out, but you also have to get the cheese.
Is the cheese worth any more?
No.
Or is it just
It's just
the badge of
status
honor? Like,
it's a badge of honor if you can get the major loot and the cheese.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, you're going to be thick in the cheese.
Thick as
thieves. Thank you, Michael, so much for being
it's been
here.
a pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Yep.
Thick as Thieves, pre-alpha at the moment. Go to the website. Look for more. But seriously, I'm really excited about this game. Thank you for watching. Till next time, see you later.